Joining us now, former MVP, Twins Hall of Famer, Justin Morneau, looking festive for the holiday season. That's a fantastic jacket. It's got to be one of a kind, right?
Whatever you can find it late night on the internet, this is what you get.
That is awesome. But you know what? The giving spirit and the holiday spirit is a big reason why we're having you on, because this, I think, is the 16th year that you have done this coat drive. It helps the Salvation Army here right in the Twin Cities. The coats go to kids right here in the Twin Cities. Sean at Fan HQ, who you work with on this, says you guys have raised and given away over 100,000 coats. It's astonishing. When you first came up with this idea, did you ever think it would mushroom into something this big?
No, I think when you do something like this, you hope people, show up for the first time you do it, and then you see there's some success, and then you want to just keep that rolling. And I think the first year we weren't sure exactly how it was going to go, and this started when I was still playing. The first year was 2009. I was still a Twin. This was, still back in our glory days, and we've every year. Sean's asked me, you want to keep doing it? You want to do the coat drive again? And say, as long as there's still a need and there's still people that want to donate, we're definitely all in on it. And it's been incredible to see the support. Various police departments from around the Twin Cities as well, getting into a little competition. We had a little get together with them during the week where the departments came and we loaded up the Salvation Army truck, and then they get a prize for the department that collects the most, which was Mounds View this year. They have a dynasty going in the in the coat collecting competition. So there's a little competition, but also the realization that we've given away over 100,000 coats and people still need them. There's still a need for them. The Salvation Army, talking to people there. How quick are you getting them out the door? They say, they come in and there's a need. People will call and say, hey, our group needs some coats. Do you have any extras? And I think it's gone a long ways. And something that is such a simple gesture, obviously, people at home, if they have a coat in their closet, something that is still in good condition but can still be used by someone who needs it, because we all know, being in Minnesota this time of year, I can't imagine I step outside without a jacket on for 5 minutes, and I'm I'm a big wimp. So it's something that people, it's a real life thing that can change a life, and it's really a simple gesture. A new coat, a used coat, you bring them into Fan HQ. You have 3 coats. They'll trade you do these autographed pictures. They're special ones that we have made up specifically for the coat drive each year, and 33 coats will get you an in-person at the start of the autograph session, and they'll meet and greet and kind of get some items signed and have a little more time. So I think we've done this, and we wondered how it was going to turn out, and it's turned into something big. Every once in a while I'll try and get some guests. I've had Louis Varland, had Dick Bremer, Joe Mauer's come out to sign, so hopefully there'll be a special guest or two that I can find to join this year. That'll be January 11th at the Ridgedale at the mall. So that's set up all through Fan HQ, and if people want to come in and make a nice donation, that's always appreciated. So cash is also accepted, so people are able to donate money, and the Salvation Army is actually able to purchase a coat with that money they donate. So there's a lot of different ways you can help, but we're thankful that people still are able to support this, and John and the folks at Fan HQ do a tremendous job of organizing everything and putting them all together and finding a place for them to go through the Salvation Army.
Yeah, it's the fanhqstore.com if you want to root around and find that, or people, I think, could go through your social media. I'm sure you got links out there. If you don't, put them out there so people could get to them. But,
yeah.
It is amazing, right? You just think you grab your coat and you walk out the door. You never think like, holy buckets, I don't have anything. I got to wear like 3 sweaters and this windbreaker. I mean, just those simple things. And plus it makes people feel good. For kids going to school, if they have a new jacket or a slightly used jacket new to them, I mean, that could change their whole attitude.
Yeah, I mean, it seems so simple, but we are changing lives in a way. And I think that's the thing you have to really remember when you do anything like this. Everyone feels like it needs to be a grand gesture, or you need to do something big to make a difference in someone's life. And in reality, it can be something as simple as putting on a coat and going out the door and feeling comfortable, feeling like you're not in danger when you leave the house. And I think that's something that really can make a difference in people's lives. And I think that's what I try and focus on. It seems like such a simple thing, but in reality, it can be life-changing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, and whoever thought that this many people still want your autograph? I mean, that's pretty astonishing. What, we're, like you said, you're 15 years into this, and they're still looking for that number 33's autograph.
Yeah, I think I'm about a million short of how many Tony Olivas signed in this state, so that's for sure. And you always try to get somebody like Joe, where you get a big name on there, people will show up as well. So it's all in good fun. But yes, I think a lot of the people that show up, that do it year after year, they've had it before. They've had that, the autograph before, or the picture and everything else. But at the same time, it's fun seeing those faces come back every year and seeing people really put a lot of time and effort into this to try and support this. And I think I'm really appreciative every time you look up and you go, I remember you from last year. I remember you from the last 5 years. And I think, obviously it's not a new autograph. Things aren't changing at this point, but I think that personal connection really means a lot as well from their side and from my side as well.
Well, I think it is too, because you've made this your home now. Obviously, you were a great Twins player and enjoyed your time here playing with the Twins, but now for you to step up, pardon the pun, to the plate and be a guy for this community and continue after the limelight and the spotlight isn't on you, although it is for television with the broadcasts, but for you to be committed to the Twin Cities and to the kids in this community says a lot about yourself.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate in the life that I get to live, and I get to live out my dream in front of so many great Twins fans. And I think being able to give back in a small way to the place that gave me so much always means a lot. And I think it's a good example also for my kids to see, that we are very fortunate, we are very lucky, and we have, a jacket every time we leave the house, and to think that there is a need for that, and that we can do something to help around the holidays especially always means a lot. And I think it really, this is my home now. This is a place where I choose to live. We can live anywhere in this great country, and this is where we make our home. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one being how we were treated, while we were played, and now post playing, the way people are still so kind and they're so nice in the way that we are treated as a family. And I think it's a simple way to just say thank you back to so many people that were so good to us.
All right, let's chat a little baseball here. And the Twins, they could use some money right now because they're not spending anything to this point of significance. Carlos Santana is out the door. Max Kepler is out the door. Those are big losses, especially at first base. And then on top of it, to see Santana go to Cleveland, an arch rival, granted that's where he came from originally, but still, that's a double shot at the Twins right now in their fan base.
Yeah, it's tough. The Twins are in a tough spot with the sale potentially happening at some point. A lot of stuff in limbo right now. We're trying to figure out exactly, how you're going to put a contender out there, because you have so many superstar pieces on this team. You've got a Carlos Correa, you've got a Byron Buxton, you have Pablo Lopez at the top of the rotation, you have a Duran at the back end of that bullpen with Jackson, a two-headed monster of a team or a bullpen that nobody wants to face at the end of the game. So, this team is a team that looks like it's just a few pieces away from being able to contend. And I think within this division, there isn't really anyone spending a ton of money and trying to run away with this thing. So it seems like it's right there in front of you. And I think we've seen a lot of good moves. You look at the Santana move from last offseason when the budget was also limited, and a guy that ended up, being one of the best offensive players and winning a Gold Glove for this team. So I know we're still in the early part of the offseason. Spring training is less than 100 days away, but that still means there's a decent amount of time to make some moves to make this team just a little bit better, because I think you're right. You lose a guy like Kepler, a fan favorite, a guy who, played against righties and lefties, played a tremendous defense in right field. I think that's going to be a loss that people are going to miss when they show up to the ballpark and look out at right and Kep's not out there. I think that's going to be something that people will notice, but it's going to be an opportunity for other guys. And whether first base looks like Miranda Julian splitting time over there, whether, you've got a lot of pieces, you have a lot of guys that are major league ready that should contribute this year. So it's going to be opportunities for those guys. And sometimes you take a step back and you're not sure it's what the year is going to look like. But when you have guys that are at the beginning of their career and they're just kind of scratching the surface of that talent and experience, you never know when they're going to take off. And I think there's going to be an opportunity for some guys to get some more playing time and to show what they can do playing on a regular basis. And hopefully that's the case. You end up fighting for the division and are able to hold on this year as opposed to, the finish that they had last year.
Well, that's the most crazy thing about this, Justin, is that the Twins, it seemed like we're so close last year. You have those young stars that we've been waiting for, the Royce Lewises, the Brooks Lees, the guys really starting to produce, and then they didn't get any help at the end, and now we're looking at that same kind of scenario going into the season. I mean, Carlos Correa is here. You have a bona fide Major League All-Star shortstop, one of the best guys in the game, but they just need these little pieces to push them over the top.
Yeah, and I think, like I was saying about opportunity, it's there and it's going to be there for these young guys. I think, before I came along, obviously a lot of years ago, but, Mikheyevich was there. He was the stalwart at first, and he was part of that, that team that fought contraction and then ended up getting, making a good run in the playoffs. But then he was moved so that I could play. So there are times when, it doesn't always look the way you think it's going to look, but then all of a sudden there's an opportunity and guys take advantage of that. And I think that's kind of where we're at now with this club. And I think the frustrating thing for a lot of people is ending the playoff drought and then taking a step back from payroll. And I think that was frustrating not only, for the fans, but also for the players, because you get into this situation and you're kind of told by the front office, hey, we're making a run. We're building towards this. These are the years where we think we're going to be really good. And I think that's what the frustrating thing is. Nobody could have, foreseen what was going to happen, on the TV side of things affecting revenue. And then, getting into this spot where ownership is deciding to sell and to potentially move on. And I think it's very difficult for a new ownership group to come in and all of a sudden you've signed 5 or 6 guys to all these long-term deals. And this new owner's kind of looking at what am I getting myself into? And I think that's kind of why we're stuck in limbo right now. So I think if there was a little more clarity to that situation, maybe then you get a little more aggressive in the later part of the offseason, but that's yet to be seen. I think that stuff's a long ways away. But right now, I trust what Derek's doing. I trust the baseball operations department and what they've done on the minor league side, developing these young hitters, and the pitching is coming. I think we're not too far off, and I think I'm with you there. It can be frustrating when you look and you go, we're that close. We've been that close so many times. When are we going to make that run? And I think there is the talent and the pieces there, and hopefully there's enough offseason left to make an impact and make a couple of moves that are going to make this team better in the short term and the long term.
One good and interesting offseason move going on right now. Royce Lewis is working out on the other side of second base, and when it was brought to Rocco's attention, he was kind of surprised. I mean, I know during the season, and you covered the team then, he wasn't too excited about going to the other side. And people were going like, well, geez, you got to do whatever the team wants. If you don't feel comfortable over there playing that position, you're thinking you're going to hurt the team more than help them by going to that other side. And everybody was saying, well, that's stubborn on Royce's part. And I think this is just Royce saying, no, let me get it down. And I got it, and then I'll go wherever you want. That seems to be the message that's coming from the Royce Lewis camp.
Yeah, I think we have to remember this is a player who attempted to change positions once before and had a career-altering injury, right? I think that's true. That's something that was really overlooked in this whole, and all the criticism that was put towards Royce in this situation. He played about 10 games in center field and then blew his knee out. And for a player to feel uncomfortable on the field, a guy, trying to change positions in the middle of a pennant race when he was trying to find his swing, I think it was maybe asking a little bit more than what he was ready for at that point. And I think the fact that it made it into the media and the fact that it turned into a big deal, that stuff happens when you go through the last 6 weeks of the season that the Twins did. I think if that happens and they're able to hang on, they're able to get in the playoffs, it becomes a non-issue. But because of everything that was going on at the time with the injuries and the lack of hitting from the group as a whole, I think it all just kind of sort of was right there in front of you. And I think I always go back to my first full season in the big leagues, and I had a great half year the year before, and then all of a sudden I struggled at the big league level for the first time, and really struggled at any level in professional baseball the way I had. And I tell people all the time, I learned more from that year than I learned from any year I played. And I think that's what Royce is going to find out from what he went through last year of the injuries and wearing down at the end, being asked to change positions, and all the adversity he dealt with that he hadn't really dealt with on the field before. He dealt with injury, he dealt with time away from the game, but actually struggling and actually failing, especially coming off the year he had before with the postseason and everything he did. I mean, he was the toast of the town, and then all of a sudden, this game has a way of humbling you. Jim Thome said it so many times to me. There's two types of baseball players: those who have been humbled and those who are about to be humbled. And I think it happens to all of us at some point. No matter how good you are, you're going to be humbled. And I think, this game has a funny way of reminding you that as soon as you think you have it all figured out, the league is going to adjust back to you, and you have to find a way to figure it out again. And I think this will help Royce forever and the rest of his career of how do I deal with certain situations? How do I deal with failure? Because when you're a young player and you haven't dealt with it, you keep running uphill and you feel like you're running faster and faster, but you're not really getting anywhere. And I think that's kind of what he found himself in the second half of last year. But, all reports coming out of Texas where he's at, and he's working out. He's, as you said, working on the other side of the diamond. He's learning how to play second base, and he said the right things now as we've got in the offseason. I want to do whatever I can do to be on the field to help this team win, and in reality, that's all that really matters.
That's something I don't think baseball fans realize, is that you guys never have really struggled till you get to the major leagues, right? Because obviously you wouldn't be here if you were struggling, right? So the guys rip through A, AA, AAA, major leagues, it all goes great. You're like, okay, this is life, this is perfect. And then for them to deal with it on the biggest stage has to just multiply the pressure you're putting on yourself to get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, even you go back to Little League. I mean, pretty much every guy that plays in the big leagues is probably the best player on his Little League team,
right.
The best player on his high school team, and can play anywhere on the field and can do pretty much whatever you want, especially when you're a first-round pick. There's not a whole lot of struggles that go on there. And I think he had struggled a little bit in the minor leagues, but yeah, it is something that's real. It's something that you have to learn how to deal with, especially in baseball. I think different than any other sport. In hockey, you have practices in between games and you have ways to adjust. And I think in football, you have week to week. Sometimes you have that bye week. So you have ways to work on things under less pressure-packed situations. When you're in the middle of a baseball season, there is no time to take a step back and say, I'm going to rework my swing and I need a couple of weeks to do it. It's just reality of how it goes. And I think when guys learn how to deal with that and come out of it, I think they end up better off on the other side as long as they're given more opportunities, which of course Royce is with the level of talent that he has.
All right, one all-encompassing baseball question for you. The salaries and what's going on here, because it seems like really now we're getting to the haves and the have-nots. I mean, the Yankees deals, the Mets deals. I mean, Juan Soto, come on. It's ridiculous the amount of money they're putting out there. And the other clubs are really, I think we're really at a crossroads now with the Twins for sale, the White Sox for sale, Washington was for sale, and then they couldn't find anybody. I mean, it seems like and then especially I think the TV money that's disappeared from so many markets has really kind of exacerbated this. Do you see this being, are we coming to a crossroads in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was having this conversation a couple of days ago of the teams that have been run by families and it's been family ownerships for a long time. They're in the tough spots, running it like a business, not willing to take big losses. And I think you get into these guys, some of this younger money, some of this, some of these hedge fund guys or some of these guys that have made a lot of money. We're talking billions of dollars that are willing to absorb, $20, $30 million losses. And I think you're kind of in this spot where the game's at where you almost think like every team needs to be bought by one of these groups that can afford to lose money, or if they're claiming to lose money, to lose money every year to try and put the best product on the field. And I think you're getting some guys that are chasing the wins and they're going for that have been so successful in other areas of business and other areas of their lives where they want their team to be the best team out there, and they're willing to almost do anything to find a way to win and to bring in as many talented players as possible. And I think this is the tough spot that Major League Baseball's in, but players are worth whatever the owners are willing to pay them. And I think that's what players have fought for so long. And it really is a tough spot for where the league's at in some of these smaller franchises and some of these markets where teams are just seeing, shedding payroll and sending their players off to these bigger markets to try and reload. And I think there has to be some, middle ground that everybody kind of finds, but the same players are available to all teams. I think that is something that that can be difficult for teams to see, especially in some of these smaller markets. We say we've developed this guy, we watched this guy grow up in front of our eyes, and now we have to watch him leave because, either we can't afford him, we're choosing not to retain him, or it's going to be hard to build an entire roster around somebody that good that's going to take up that much of our payroll. So I think we've seen it in Tampa. I know people always use Tampa as an example of a team that runs a lower payroll but is still able to have success, especially playing in the division they play. So you just have to be a little more efficient. You have to be a little bit smarter with your decisions, and you can't afford to make those $8 or $10 or $12 million mistakes that the Yankees can make or the Dodgers can make, or as we saw last year with the Dodgers, you can have a full rotation of guys that have been all-stars on the injured list and still go out there and trade for a Jack Flaherty. And I think that is the difference. That's what makes it difficult. But we've also seen over the last few years, some of the smaller markets also win World Series and get to World Series. I know it was 10 years ago now, but you look back at Kansas City and how they built, and there's an opportunity in the Central Division. There's an opportunity with the third wild card for teams to get in the postseason. So I think there is still somewhat of a level playing field, and there is an opportunity for teams to make a run in the postseason. You're just up against some of these bigger market teams, and that's kind of always been the case. I think hasn't really changed in baseball over the last 30 years. There's been the Yankees, the Blue Jays, when they won the World Series, led baseball all those years ago in payroll. So it does happen, and it doesn't guarantee success either. We saw it, Mets running the highest payroll in baseball the last couple of years and didn't really have a lot to show for it or what they expected to show for it. So it's a long-winded answer to a very complicated problem, but hopefully we're able to find some middle ground, and some of these smaller markets are able to have some optimism, moving forward for what we're seeing going into the next season.
All right, let's hit it one more time. The coat drive is going on through January 11th. It doesn't end at the holidays. You've extended it this year to get more, over 100,000 coats since you started this way back when. How's it been going to this point, and what's the push here to get you over the top for all these kids out there?
Yeah, we're over 5,000 coats this year. A lot of that has come from 10 different police departments competing. Drop-offs at the store are still happening, so Fan HQ, bring 3 coats in there. Sean will trade you a picture for those jackets that you bring in there. We also do an in-person. The autograph event is on January 11th at Ridgedale Mall, so there is that. If you bring in some coats and you want to come through the line and have a little in-person chat and a little say hi and sign whatever item you want to bring in there, whether it's a bat, an old glove, or a jersey you had, from when you were a kid. I see those come through on the line all the time too. So that's something that we can still make an impact. We still make a difference, and we know we still have plenty of winter left in this state. All
right, Sean, thank you so much to Sean for all the work he's done. Justin, great job again. Thanks for stepping up for everybody in Twins territory. You did it as a player, and now, more importantly, this is almost more important than what you did on the field. Taking care of people at this time of year is very gracious of you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me on.